Hola a todos, soy Mike. En este video vamos a aprender el verbo tener en español. Hi everybody, this is Mike. In this video, we're gonna learn the verb to have in Spanish. The verb to have in Spanish can be translated in two different ways. We can translate it as tener, and we can also translate it as haber. In this video, we're going to learn how to use all the ways we can conjugate this verb when it's translated in Spanish as tener. So it is a very useful verb. It is an irregular verb, meaning that the rules of conjugation that we've been studying in previous videos are not going to be useful, of course, because it is an irregular verb. So we're going to need to learn. We're going to have to learn the conjugations, all of the conjugations by heart. This is basically practicing and repetition. That's it. And in this video, we're going to go through all of the possible conjugations for this verb when it's translated as tener. So it's a very important and used verb in Spanish. We can basically use this verb pretty much the same as we do in English. The only difference is we use tener when we want to give information about our age. So if in English I say I am 53, in Spanish I say I have 53, meaning yo tengo 53 años. Yo tengo 53 años. That's the way we use the verb tener in Spanish, to have, which is different than English. But other than that, we use to have to express possession. So let's say I have a car. Yo tengo un carro, meaning it can be either that I have one car that it's my car, or perhaps that I have a car that I can use. So yo tengo means I have when it's translated as tener in Spanish, and I'm trying to convey possession of things. Also, as in English, I can use the verb to have, translated as tener, with other verbs when I want to indicate an obligation. So let's say I have to go to the doctor. If in English I use I conjugate I have any tense that I want. I have, in this case, yo tengo in Spanish. To go, it's an infinitive form. In Spanish, I have to translate yo tengo. I have to add the word que and put the verb in the infinitive form. So I have yo tengo que ir. I have to go. Yo tengo que ir al doctor, to the doctor. That would be the way it works when I want to use to have with more verbs, which usually is in the infinitive form. But if I'm going to use to have with another verb in the present perfect form, which is I have gone, this is different because that means I have to translate to have as haber. And this is not what we're going to learn in this video. We're going to learn just the translation in Spanish as to have as tener, of to have as tener. And if I'm using to have with other verbs in the infinitive form, meaning obligation, I have to go, I have to eat, I have to read, we have to play, blah, 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 depending on whatever I want to convey. I'm translating to have as tener, conjugated in any of the tenses that I'm going to conjugate it. And the next verb, I have to go, which is in infinitive form in English. In Spanish, I have to add que and the infinitive form of the verb. I have to go. To go in Spanish is ir. To eat in Spanish is comer, ir. To smile, sonreír. To play, jugar. I have to go. Yo tengo que ir. I have to play. Yo tengo que jugar. I have to go. I have to smile. Yo tengo que sonreír, and so on. So basically, that's the only thing that we need to keep in mind when it comes to using the verb to have. So What we're going to do now is we're going to go through all of the possible conjugations of this verb, and we're going to practice and learn this. So let's go with the conjugations of the verb to have. So as we said before, it's an irregular verb, and when we are portraying a person's age, we use in English to be, depending on the tense. I am 53, I will be 53, I was 53. In Spanish, we use tengo in its different conjugations, which we are going to study shortly. Yo tengo 53 años, tengo 53 años, I'm 53. Tú tienes 20 años, tienes 20 años, you are 20. Él tiene 13 años, tiene 13 años, he is 13. Ella tiene 15 años, tiene 15 años, she is 15. Tiene 100 años de antigüedad, it is 100 years old. Nosotros tenemos 30 años, we are 30. Ellos tienen 40 años, they are 40. Also, when we indicate obligation, as I explained before, we have to use the word que. We have to put the word que between the verb tener and the second verb. In English, we use the first verb to have conjugated in the different tenses, and a second verb in its infinitive form. I have to go, I have to run, I have to play, I have to blah, blah, blah. In Spanish, we also have the verb to have, tener, depending on the conjugation. Yo tengo, tú tienes, yo tendré, tendrás, blah, blah, blah. The second verb in infinitive form, ir, and we have to put the word que between those two verbs in order to indicate obligation. And if it's followed by a verb in the past participle tense, it is translated as haber for the present perfect, the future perfect tenses. I have gone, yo he ido, but that's a subject for another video. In this video, we're going to explain and to study the conjugations of the verb to have, translated as tener en español, in Spanish. Indicative present, simple present. Yo tengo, I have. Tú tienes, you have. Singular, informal, when we are close. Usted tiene, you have. Singular, formal. Ustedes tienen, you have. Plural. Vosotros tenéis, you have. Spain, when we are in Spain. Él tiene, he has. Ella tiene, she has. Tiene, it has. Nosotros tenemos, we have. Ellos tienen, they have. Ellas tienen, they have. Ellos male, ellas female. These are the conjugations of the verb tener. So I can say, I have a house. Yo tengo una casa. You have a house. Tú tienes una casa. Usted tiene una casa. Ustedes tienen una casa. Vosotros tenéis una casa. He has a house. Él tiene una casa. She has a house. Ella tiene una casa. Has a house. Bueno, it has a house. I'm sorry. Tiene una casa. We have a house. Nosotros tenemos una casa. They have a house. Ellos or ellas tienen una casa. That's for simple present. When we go to the simple future, we have yo tendré. Remember, this is an irregular verb, so there are no rules. We basically need to practice a lot and get used to the conjugations and learn the conjugations by heart, by practicing it, repeating a lot. So, building a lot of sentences. Yo tendré, I will have. Tú tendrás, you will have, if it's singular, informal, and we are close. Usted tendrá, you will have, it's singular, formal. Ustedes tendrán, if it's plural, you will have. Vosotros tenéis, you will have, if we were in Spain. Él tendrá, he will have. Ella tendrá, she will have. Tendrá, it will have. Nosotros tendremos. Nosotros tendremos. We will have. Ellos tendrán. They will have. For male. Ellas tendrán. They will have. Female. Yo tendré tiempo. I will have time. Tendré. Yo tendré tiempo. Remember that these conjugations, even though we're using the subject, the pronoun, in Spanish we can skip the pronoun. I can say tendré, tendrás, tendrán, tendréis, tendrá. It doesn't matter. But first, let's get used to the pronoun, just to get a hold on that, to get to understand the conjugation. So let's move to the past, the simple past. Remember that we have el pretérito indicativo, which is something that happened once and that's it. This is that tense. The indicative pretérito. Anyways, simple past. Pretérito indicativo. Sorry. Yo tuve, I had. Tú tuviste, you had. Singular, informal, when we are close. Ustedes tuvieron, usted tuvo, you had. Singular, formal. Ustedes tuvieron, you had. Plural. Vosotros tuvisteis, you have, if we were in Spain. Él tuvo, he had. Ella tuvo, she had. Tuvo, it had. Nosotros tuvimos, we had. Ellos tuvieron, they had, for male. Ellas tuvieron, they had, female. So we can say, yo tuve dinero, I had money. And that was it. Tuve. When it's the past, when I mean something that happened once and that was it. El pretérito indicativo. And we also have another simple past, is the same in English, but it's the indicative imperfect, el pretérito imperfecto. And it's pretty much like when we say in English, I would have or I used to have. In this case, let's think about that as had, simple present. And in Spanish is yo tenía, I had. Tú tenías, you had, singular, informal, when we are close. Usted tenía, you had, singular, informal. Formal. Ustedes tenían, you had, plural. Vosotros teníais, you had, if we were in Spain. Él tenía, he had. Ella tenía, she had. Tenía, it had. Nosotros teníamos, we had. Ellos tenían, they had, for male. Ellas tenían, they had, for female. Yo tenía un hermano, I had a brother. Yo tenía tiempo, I had time. I would have time, I used to have time. Tenía, yo tenía, tú tenías. Él tenía, ella tenía, and so on. So let's move to the going to for the future. So in this case, as you can see, the sentence, the structure in English is I am going to have. The structure is subject, verb to be, and to have. Meaning that in English, to have is the same for all of the sentences. In Spanish, it's the same. We have tener, 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 tener. So the conjugation of to have as tener is basically the infinitive form, tener. It's the same. The thing that changes is the verb to go. Voy a, vas a, which is here. Yo voy a tener, I am going to have. Tú vas a tener, you are going to have. Remember that even though I am going to have, in Spanish, if we are going to translate that literally, is yo estoy yendo a tener. That would be the literal translation. For us, is just like saying voy a. Voy a. I'm going to have, voy a tener. You are going to have, tú vas a tener, singular, informal, close. Usted va a tener, you are going to have. Here, I'm sorry for this. You are going to have, okay. Usted va a tener, you are going to have, yes. Why this is showing so weird? Okay, here, sorry. Boop. You are going to have, this is here. You are going to have, sorry. Usted va a tener, you're going to have, singular, formal. Ustedes van a tener, you are going to have, for plural. Vosotros vais a tener, you are going to have, if we were living in Spain. Él va a tener, he's going to have. Ella va a tener, she's going to have. Va a tener, it is going to have. Nosotros vamos a tener, we are going to have. Ellos van a tener, they are going to have. And ellas van a tener the same, they are going to have, for female. So, ellas van a tener un carro nuevo. They are going to have a new car. Tú vas a tener un hermanito. You are going to have a little brother. You are going to have a little brother. So this is. We can also use the going to for the past. And it's exactly the same. Tener, 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 tener. The verb tener doesn't change because it's in its infinitive form. It's pretty much easy. Yo iba a tener. Whoa, I'm sorry. I was. You were. Sorry, here. You were. Whoops. I didn't expect this. Oh, sorry. You were. We were, and whoa, he was, she was, it was. Okay, sorry for that. So, yo iba a tener, I was going to have. Tú ibas a tener, you were going to have. You see how the conjugation lays on the verb iba, ir a, to go, to be, going to, basically. The verb to have is the same because it's in its infinitive form. Usted iba a tener, you were going to have singular formal. Ustedes iban a tener, you were going to have plural. Vosotros ibais a tener, you were going to have in Spain. Él iba a tener, he was going to have. Ella iba a tener, she was going to have. Iba a tener, it was going to have. Nosotros íbamos a tener, we were going to have. Ellos iban a tener, they were going to have male. Ellas iban a tener, they were going to have female. Easy, right? So let's move to the present perfect. And it's exactly the same. As you can see, in English we have the form to have had. Where had is the same, is the past for have, and in Spanish is the same. Tenido. The past participle form for tener is tenido, and it remains the same. Yo he tenido, I have had. Remember what I said before at the beginning of this video, have also can be translated as haber, if it's followed by a verb in the past participle form, which is this example. And the translation is haber. That's the other video. This video is tener. So first, let's just check on tener. Yo he tenido, I have had. Tú has tenido, you have had, singular, informal, if we are close. Usted ha tenido, you have had, singular, formal. Ustedes han tenido, you have had, plural. Vosotros habéis tenido, you have had, if we were in Spain. Él ha tenido, he has had. Ella ha tenido, she has had. Ha tenido, it has had. Nosotros hemos tenido, we have had. Ellos han tenido, they have had, male. Ellas han tenido, they have had, female. So I can say, yo he tenido muchos amigos. I have had a lot of friends before. And so on. So for the past perfect, it's exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the conjugation of have. It is not the present, but the past. I had had, yo había tenido. You had had, tú habías tenido, singular and formal, close. Usted había tenido, singular, formal. Ustedes habían tenido, you had had, plural. Vosotros habíais tenido, you had had, if we were in Spain. Él había tenido, he had had. Ella había tenido, she had had. Había tenido, it had had. Nosotros habíamos tenido, we had had. Ellos habían tenido, they had had, male. And ellas habían tenido, they had had, female. If we were going to have the future perfect, is the same. The conjugation for the future lays on haber, will have, and had is translated as tenido. Yo habré tenido, I will have. Tú habrás tenido, you will have had. Singular, informal, close. Usted habrá tenido, you will have had, singular, formal. Ustedes habrán tenido, you will have had, plural. Vosotros habríais tenido, you will have had, Spain. Él habrá tenido, he will have had. Ella habrá tenido, she will have had. Habrá tenido, it will have had. Nosotros habremos tenido, we will have had. ellos habrán tenido, they will have had for male, and ellas habrán tenido, they will have had for female. Conjugation is basically the verb to have the first one translated as haber. Okay. Now, for the continuous forms, it depends on the conjugation of the verb to be. So this is present continuous, I am. For the future continuous will be I will be. For the past continuous will be I was. And having is exactly the same. And the conjugation is teniendo. For this tense, I'm just going to go with the simple present because we already have a video in which we explain the conjugations of the verb to be translated at estar. You can watch the video. And it's basically those conjugations for the past and the future and the present perfect and so on. So, present continuous. Yo estoy teniendo. I'm having. Tú estás teniendo. You are having. Singular and formal close. Usted está teniendo. You are having. Singular formal. Ustedes están teniendo. You are having. Plural. Vosotros estáis teniendo. You are having. If we were in Spain. Él está teniendo. He will. Shoot. He. Sorry here. He is going. He is having. Sorry. He is having. Mistake here. She is having. Let's remove this. I was cutting and pasting, so that was the mistake. But once again, yo estoy teniendo, I'm having. Tú estás teniendo, you are having, singular and formal close. Usted está teniendo, you are having, singular formal. Ustedes están teniendo, you are having, plural. Vosotros estáis teniendo, you are having, if we were in Spain. Él está teniendo, he is having. Ella está teniendo, she is having. Está teniendo, it is having. Nosotros estamos teniendo, we are having. Ellos están teniendo, they are having. And ellas están teniendo, they are having. Female. Yo estoy teniendo problemas. I am having trouble. Estoy teniendo problemas. And so, estaré teniendo, I will be having. Estaba teniendo, I was having, and so on. Depending on the conjugations of the verb to be. So, teniendo is basically having. Teniendo. Teniendo. Now let's go to the present subjunctive. In sentences like, it is important that he have enough time to prepare for the exam. So we have, yo tenga, I have. Tú tengas, you have, singular and formal close. Usted tenga, you have, singular formal. Ustedes tengan, plural, you have. Vosotros tengáis, you have, Spain. Él tenga, he have. Ella tenga, she have. Tenga, it have. Nosotros tengamos, we have. Ellos tengan, they have male. Ellas tengan, they have female. It is important that he have. Es importante que él tenga suficiente tiempo para preparar para el examen. Espero que tengas. I hope you have. Espero que tengas un buen día. I hope you have a good day. Tengas, that's the subjunctive. And remember, not necessarily the subjunctive form in Spanish will be the subjunctive form in English. Not necessarily. That's something interesting and kind of complex, but it's part of the process. And let's go to the past subjunctive mood. If I had money, I would buy another house. Si yo tuviera, I had. Tú tuvieras, you had, singular informal close. Usted tuviera, you had, singular formal. Ustedes tuvieran, you had, plural. Vosotros tuvierais, you had. If we were in Spain, él tuviera, he had. Ella tuviera, she had. Tuviera, it had. Nosotros tuviéramos, we had. Ellos tuvieran, they had, male. Ellas tuvieran, they had, female. If I had money, si yo tuviera dinero, si tú tuvieras, ¿qué tal que él tuviera? Ojalá ella tuviera. Subjunctive in the past. And last but not least, the conditional mode. And once again, it here it's depending on the conjugation with the modal verb would. So yo tendría, I would have. Tú tendrías, you would have singular informal close. Usted tendría, you would have singular formal. Ustedes tendrían, you would have plural. Vosotros tendríais, you would have Spain, if we were living in Spain. Él tendría, he would have. Ella tendría, she would have. Tendría, it would have. Nosotros tendríamos, we would have. Ellos tendrían, they would have, for male. Ellas tendrían, they would have, for female. If I had money, si yo tuviera dinero, I would have, yo tendría a brand new house, una casa nueva. Yo tendría, I would have. So, this is basically it. The most important tenses, the most important conjugations of the verb to have when we translate that verb in Spanish as tener. We have this guide here. So your mission right now is, of course, to start practicing these exercises. Practice these conjugations. Practice as much as you can. Repeat these conjugations. Try to build sentences based on different tenses. Do not worry that much about the sentence structure, but about the conjugation. Try to focus on the conjugation and learn the conjugation. And that's going to be a very, very, very interesting and useful exercise. So how did it go? Hopefully this is going to be helpful for you. Remember, to have is an irregular verb, meaning you have to, tienes que, you have to study and you have to practice and you have to learn. This is not impossible. It's a little bit complex, a little bit complicated, but it's just a matter of practice and repetition. So hopefully you're going to be able to master this verb following the guides, the guidelines that I just gave you, repeating, practicing, learning. And if you have doubts, if you have issues while doing this, check the video as many times as you need. And if you're still in doubt, leave a comment and I'll reply as soon as possible. Remember, if you like the video, you know what to do. Please share with your friends and groups and social media. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. That's gonna help you. That's gonna help the channel grow. And also, it's gonna keep you posted about the updates, the new videos that we're posting on a weekly basis. And also, it's gonna allow you to participate in the chat. When we have live streaming classes, the live chat is only available for subscribers. It doesn't cost a dime, so it is there for you as a subscriber. And also, if you want to go further, we have 3 different membership levels available for you. If you want to go further and show your appreciation for our channel, you can do that, and you will get extra contents, exclusive member-only content. So I really enjoyed this process. I hope it's going to be helpful for you, and looking forward to seeing you in more videos. So, muchas gracias por estar aquí. Sigan estudiando, sigan aprendiendo, sigan adelante y nos vemos en próximos videos. Chao.